going to. Perfect. And now I'm going to take us over to Facebook. All right, you ready?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Like easy peasy. You'll see a little like icon up there too when it's Hello, Luxury League Austin, and welcome to a great Facebook Live. Today, I am joined by Wade Giles. Wade is the founder and the team leader at the Giles Group at Moreland Properties. We have lined up a great conversation today that touches on the buyer's market, which Wade has officially let me know that Austin has officially switched into that. So I thought that was interesting. Wade, I would love to just kind of jump in, pick your brain and ask you, when you say that it's officially switched, what does that mean? Are you going off of a feel, or are there actual market indicators you look at to make that proclamation?
Yeah, correct. Great question. So a balanced market for Austin's real estate market is 5 months of inventory. So what does that mean? Months of inventory means that if no other homes came on the market today, that we would have 5 months of runway before we did not have any more homes to sell. Now, for perspective, about 6 months ago, we were about 0.7 months. So less than a month, about 3 weeks worth of inventory. Now, as of this past week in Central Austin, we are at 5.5 months of inventory, which tips us over into a buyer's market. We have not been in a buyer's market in quite some time. I believe it was into a buyer's market, I think until 2011 or 2012, something like that. So it's been before I was even in the industry.
Yeah, no, it's been a long time. And the thing that I think is important to point out is that this is a good sign. This is something good for a lot of people. When we go into a buyer's market, that creates opportunity for buyers that previously haven't existed. And to your point, this predates the pandemic, right? So the demand for Austin has always been there. It is still there. It will always be there. It just happens to be, at least in my opinion, you correct me if I'm wrong, that there seems to be this kind of window right now where buyers have the upper hand.
There was an article that came out just the other day that had a quote I thought was fun. It said that Austin real estate is on a Black Friday sale. So, and I think that's, in some ways true. We're seeing some significant discounts and significant reductions in price, but it's not going to last for forever. And there is a window of opportunity right now for buyers, but sellers are having a difficult time transitioning into this market. They're still holding on to the fact that their neighbor sold their house in March for significantly more. They're not wanting to acknowledge that interest rates and mortgage rates are real, and they do have a direct impact. There's the argument that, there's a lot of cash buyers, and there were, and there still are some, but a lot of cash buyers, have lost some serious equity in the stock market or whatnot, and are being a little bit more conservative with their cash, or they're looking for a real deal because they know they have leverage.
Well, and I think too, when we talk about, sellers it's been a seller's market for way before pre-pandemic times in Austin, right? That sellers have a lot of equity. They've always had. So when we say that like they're seeing their, home values drop, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're upside down. Like there's no like doom and gloom. It's just saying that they have lost from what it was at the peak, but 9 out of 10 times they're still very much on the upside because, appreciation in Austin has been there forever.
Correct. I mean, chances are, if you purchased your home before the pandemic, you still have a tremendous amount of equity in your home and would be, net positive on the sale. If you bought your home within the last year, there's a not so sure, but if you purchased your home, prior to the pandemic, there's great chances that you've got a tremendous amount of equity.
And so for a buyer or someone who's, maybe expanding their family, someone who's divorced, someone who's downsizing, there's a million reasons, death, another one, a million reasons why people do move. If I'm a buyer, what does that actually mean when it's like a buyer's market? Like what actual takeaways could I relate to my situation now that we're in this window of time where we've seen kind of that role reversal?
Sure. So you're going to see it, first and foremost, chances are you're not going to have to rush to go see a property within, 5 seconds of it hitting the MLS. So that's you get some time to actually plan out your schedule. One. Two, in the way that an offer is structured, there's a good chance that, not only are you going to be able to negotiate the sales price, but you're also going to be able to negotiate things like title policy, home warranties. In the past, we've seen leasebacks given to sellers for free for months and months and months at a time. Now those leasebacks will likely come with a payment. And they won't be for free. So there are different concessions that buyers just weren't able to ask for in the height of the market that they're able to take advantage of today. Buy down, seller paid closing costs that can go towards buy downs and other creative financing outlets to, help with your payment.
Yeah, so let's talk about that, right? Let's move in kind of to this rate and financing. And I kind of chuckled when you said, buyers now have time to plan, right? 5 seconds. You mean they actually get to like make a thoughtful decision? Oh my gosh, right? I mean, without it being like, you have to decide now. I mean, that's what it was. So it's like,
For sure.
wow, buyers get to like think about a really important decision and weigh options. What a novel idea, right? I'm sorry, I wouldn't want to have been a buyer when I didn't have that option or opportunity that is now there above other things, right? So
totally. I touched on the financials and the way we structure an offer, but yes, there's also that valuable element of time. You have several days to go through an inspection and thoroughly inspect and aren't feeling so rushed and pressured to just put something together. So yeah, there's so many opportunities, and you have a lot more inventory to choose from. So you can make a more educated decision on the investment that you choose to move forward with.
I love that. Well, let's talk about rates because, when it comes to rates, they're definitely dominating the headlines. And they do have a real cause and effect on both the buyers and the sellers. So when it comes to interest rates and the clients that you're working with, how do you advise them? What are you telling in this moment about how they should be looking at interest rates and factoring that into their decision-making process?
Well, of course, it's a huge topic of conversation, and for good reason. The first thing I like to say is let's get some perspective. And the 50-year average interest rate or mortgage rate in the United States has been at 7.7% is the historical average over the past 50 years. So we're now in the high sixes, low sevens. The rates actually took a little bit of a dip today. But nevertheless, we're higher than the 2.8s that we saw not that long ago. And so it's been a whiplash effect for buyers to get comfortable with that. And the reality is, on average, it takes about 90 days for buyers to get adjusted to an interest rate hike. And quite frankly, we haven't had 90 days between the hikes. So no one's had an opportunity to kind of like realize that rates are going up and they're going to continue to go up a little bit more, and they're going to stay up for a little while, even once we start to see those rates have a positive impact on things like inflation. The Fed's not going to just turn around and start reducing rates once they see positive trajectory. They're not. They're going to hold them there for quite some time. So, just having a full, just looking at it from the as full of a perspective as possible. But the other thing that people need to consider and be reminded of is that rates will likely come down. So if you can stomach a rate at this point, and you can get a house for a great price where it all works. And again, there are so many other products other than a conventional 30-year mortgage. There are, different ARM products. There are there's buy downs. I mean, there's so many different things that different lenders are working on, and on every day I hear about a new product that comes out. So working with a good local lender who is looking for solutions is incredibly important. A lot of lenders are offering to waive their fees on a refinance when that time comes, because they do. I think a lot of people are saying, okay, we're going to deal with this rate for now, and as soon as rates come down, probably into the fives, they're going to be more, they're going to go ahead and refinance when that opportunity has it. But they're not going to, when rates come down into the fives, I think we're going to see so much buyer demand. We're going to maybe not be quite back at square one, but closer. So this is the time to take advantage, get a great price, get great terms, hold on to it, and then refinance into that new lower rate when the time comes.
Well, perspective is so important. And, a couple things. One, so you talk about historically, right? A 50-year average. Well, there's other historical things that give perspective. Anytime we've gone into a recession, I think this goes back 70 years when graphed out, interest rates go down. So there's, a lot of speculation. To your point, you can never say with certainty, but when you start to look at trends, rates always go up and then they come down. There's another historical one I've seen that talks about property as being like the best hedge against inflation. And so that's been charted out for 70 years, right? How home values continue to rise, and their rate exceeds what inflation does. And to your point too, about the creative financing, I think that's where agents like yourself become so valuable, because if you're not in the trenches in the industry, all we hear is the Fed's rate hiking, the Fed rates hiking. Oh, now it's going to cost me $800 more a month than it used to. But there are so many creative ways to get around that, to reduce the payments to where people can really come out ahead. Oh, and hey, guess what? Now you don't have to put $200,000 down just to get the house. If you actually take that money and apply it incrementally towards what, this interest rate hike is, I've even seen charts where you fare better with the higher interest rate than you did paying the higher market value. So to your point, I think that 90-day thing is really accurate and interesting to think that we haven't even had 90 days between these hikes to kind of adjust to something before change is happening again. So just highlighting also, I think this really small window of time where buyers do have the upper hand, because a lot of people aren't thinking that you actually do.
Right. And similarly, as we just saw people who were holding out to wait to sell their homes because they wanted to hit the market at the very, very height of the market. There are a lot of homes on the market today for people who missed it just by a little bit of time. By the time we've realized that we've missed either the height or the bottom, we're on the other side of it. So there's no exact way for me or any other agent to know definitively this is the best time to buy or sell your home. But we can tell you if it is a good time to buy or sell your home, given what you are looking for, what your needs are, and your timeline. But a lot of it are factors beyond our control, and we're doing the best that we can to guide our clients to the best of our abilities. But also that requires people to be up to date, reading the news, reading I read several different news outlets every single day, following this stuff, because it's really important and it changes so rapidly.
Well, you just kind of touched on what I think is the $1 million question, right? Which some sellers want to sell, but they're kind of sitting out to see how things. Some buyers want to move, need to move even, but they're kind of sitting out to see. So the $1 million question, when is the right time to buy or sell? I mean, how do you answer that if and when you're asked it?
Well, again, I need more information from that person. Yeah. Because it's a case-by-case basis with every single situation. So I couldn't really answer that. I would tell you that this is the best buyer's market I have ever experienced, and that we have more opportunity here than we've ever seen before. But I will also say that buyers and sellers have never been further apart, really. Sellers are still holding on to these crazy prices that we saw over the last couple of years, and buyers are looking straight ahead and saying, I'm not looking in the rearview mirror anymore. I'm looking on the road, and the road is not reflective of what's behind me. So The
Well,
sooner,
I love that you didn't jump to answer that. Like, I think a knee-jerk reaction would be like, oh, well, now's the best time to buy. But instead it's case by case. And that's obviously the right answer. Every circumstance is different. But I love how you brought that background and said, but I've never seen this much buyer opportunity. And when you say, I wrote this in my notes, that buyers and sellers have never been this far apart, like, can you paint a picture for me of what that looks like? Like, I hear it and I can understand it, but I'm curious if you have any sort of like practical application or real life experience of like, this is what I mean when I say they're this far apart.
well, here's a true property that's on the market. There's a house in Travis Heights that sold in the spring, late spring, early summer, for 3.4 million. It is now on the market, and it was a brand new house. Beautiful house. Nothing has changed one way or the other. It's pretty immaculate. It's on the market today for under 2.9 million. So
Okay. Yep.
it sold for over $100,000 over asking back in the spring when it was launched, and it's now, several $100,000 less, and it's been on the market for it's been on for a couple of months now. They've continued to make additional price increases. And again,
Well,
the house is the same.
yeah,
Nothing has changed other than, our market.
our market, yeah.
Which is tough, because unfortunately that seller is underwater already, is already upside down on that property.
Yeah. Well,
bad
but that's one of those one-off cases you talked about, right? Where
Correct.
it's depending on the time of the buy, right? Because most people who didn't buy at the height, which, who are looking to sell, like there's few and far between where you just bought and then you're looking to sell. But it does happen. And then, the reality is though, is that is it, half empty or half full? There's opportunity for someone to get an incredible property,
For
right there.
sure. Because again, I am bullish on Austin long term. At the end of the
Yeah.
day, people love living here. I love living here. We've got so many wonderful intangibles here in Austin, not to mention the university and all of the incredible companies that have moved here over the last couple of years and are continuing to move here. I don't think a lot of these companies are going to leave these campuses that they've built just because we're at a little bit of a challenging time in our economy.
And it's a market correction. It's like to correct means to make something wrong right. So
Correct.
it's like a market correction is what's happening right now, which is good, bringing things back into balance. Like out of balance in work, in life, and anything is never good. So it's like this correction needed to happen. The pace at which y'all were running as agents, the growth was not sustainable. So guess what? Rates are doing what they were intended to do, which is cool off an overheated market. So, to me, again, perspective and the way in which things are framed up, it's easy to look at that and sit back and go, oh, well, that makes sense.
And this correction is absolutely necessary in order for our market to continue to flourish. Had we continued at the rate that we were going, it just wasn't sustainable. So I'm really, in some ways, really glad that we're having this, it's unfortunate, it's a challenge, right? But I'm glad that we're doing this now instead of it continuing to go on longer and being a harder pill to swallow.
You're not the only agent I've heard say that, right? Because there are, again, if you look at the big picture in the long term, this had to happen at some point in time. It's better to happen sooner than later. And so, I think it's just, again, having that like long-term perspective, high above to be able to see that. Well, we've talked a lot about kind of the resale market, but you started to touch on new construction. And as someone who I know represents builders and has a lot of experience in new construction, specifically kind of this luxury niche that we're talking about, I'm curious, what are you seeing? What are you experiencing? What can you share with us when it comes specifically to the new construction market in Austin?
Well, I think our spec home builders are, in a tight spot right now, and they're having to make concessions and make changes even for buyers in order to get their product sold. It wasn't that long ago. Oh, you don't like the backsplash. Oh, you don't like the countertops. Oh, whatever. Too bad. Take it or leave it. We'll sell it to someone else. And now builders are making conscious efforts to make or should be making conscious efforts to make changes if they're in a phase where they can, make some customizations for buyers because that's what they're looking for. But quite frankly, a lot of buyers are being incredibly patient, and it's challenging to sell things mid-construction right now. People want to see a final product that they can go ahead and move into or be close enough to that line of sight before but there's quite a bit of new construction across the board in Central Texas, Central Austin, of various price points. That it's going to be, and a lot of these builders have a lender that is needing to,
Get them off the books.
get them off the books. And so there's a lot of pressure on these builders. And so I think there's tremendous opportunity for a buyer to come in and buy something new construction at an amazing price that they wouldn't have been able to get before.
Yeah.
The new construction in, I was pulling this for a client just yesterday, new construction on the market in 78704, which is Bolden, Travis Heights, Zilker, Barton Hills, and some other areas. Average price per foot that is being of the list price, of the asking prices, the ones that are actively on the market that have not gone under contract is over $1,000 a foot. If you look at the average sold price per foot over the last 90 days in the same zip code for new construction, we're at $809 a foot. So we're over $200 a foot apart from what people are asking for and what actually has been what they're selling for. So again, back to that big disconnect between buyers and sellers, but builders are going to have to make concessions, and they're going to have to continue to cut their prices because they've got a loan to pay off.
Well, taking it back to what we said, what does it mean to officially be in a buyer's market? What you're describing right now, when you say builders are going to have to start to make some concessions, have to start to make changes, that is because we're in a buyer's market. So it takes you back to, for those that, need to, want to, maybe see in the next couple of years, how they know that they want a bigger house where they can entertain and they're, can't do that now. It is making this moment, this opportunity, this window of time a really great time for a lot of people.
Because let me tell you something. I've talked to several builders that want to get projects off the books, not only because they need to pay off their loan, of course, but because they want to go take advantage of this market and buy lots at a discount, because by the time they've got their plans and they built and are ready to sell in 18 to 24 months, they're going to be in a great position to sell at a really strong price. So they wanted, all the builders that I know are wanting to take advantage of this market right now.
No, that's interesting. And it goes back to, isn't it just like this tried and true in real estate? You make your money on the buy, whether this is like commercial or investment or single family, right? It's like finding that deal, not on what you can sell it for, but on what you buy it for. So, that kind of lends itself, again, taking it back to what does it mean to officially be in a buyer's market? And I mean, to your point, sellers in Austin have had the upper hand for so long. It's about time that buyers get a little, that it swings their way. Now, how long it stays there to be determined. But there will definitely be some buyers kicking themselves down the road, going coulda, shoulda, woulda, then, in the same way that sellers are. And that's just the cyclicalness of what, being involved in the market is. Well, let me ask you one final question. How are you finding success in this market? What does that look like? What are you doing? How are you working with your clients? I would love to hear a little bit about that.
Yeah, for sure. Well, look, first and foremost, I will say we are still super, super busy. We've got multiple contracts out for signature right now. I was showing property yesterday, throughout the weekend. I'll be showing more property tomorrow. But we had over 30 groups of people come through an open house on a home that we listed just this past weekend because we priced it well and we had great marketing around it. And so it was incredibly busy. So we are still really busy, not as crazy as we were in this crazy whirlwind where all we could do was, we were just doing everything we could to keep up. There's a little bit more of a breather, and it's allowed me to get back to some of the things that I should have been working on during the frenzy of the pandemic, getting to work on my business instead of working in my business. So I'm going back and revisiting some of the systems that we use on my team and putting together our business plan for 2023, our marketing plan for 2023. So I'm using this time. I'm just as busy as I was. I'm just busy in different ways, but to continue to work and grow and build my team out for the future. Because again, I think that this is just, in the grand scheme of things, this is a blip in the radar. It's an incredible opportunity for buyers. And there's still, the property values are still high. You're still going to sell your house for more in this moment than had you sold it in 2019. So there's still a lot of positivity in our market. And, we'll see some people get out of the business. We'll see some builders move to other markets. We'll see some builders close up shop, as well as real estate agents and lenders and so on and so forth. There will be a bit of a cleansing throughout the real estate industry as a whole. But that's not necessarily a bad thing either.
Agreed. And there's a lot of jobs that need filling. And so I think that then just helps us get back to, kind of a more like macro state, like where we need to be. Right. So I couldn't agree more with you. And, to keep talking about the like ways in which you work, you said, oh, well, we had an open house this weekend. When was the last time you had an open house? Right. So this is nothing.
We've been holding a lot of them.
Yeah, I bet. Right. But like back then, I say back then, it's almost like we need to like remove the last, year and a half or 2 years from the equation, because the perspective of there is so far from what like reality is.
Right. We're having, real estate agents, and unfortunately, there's a lot of real estate agents who started in the last couple of years who really don't know what it takes to sell real estate.
Yeah, for sure.
They were maintaining a business and trying to get things done as quickly as possible, but now they're getting to see this whole other side of the business.
Work like when you got to roll up your sleeves and really execute.
Trust me, the last 2 years were no walk in the park.
Yeah.
It's just a different type of work that we're going into.
Yeah, your role and the consultations you're doing are different, but this is where your experience gets to shine. So before we kind of close out, Wade, will you just like tell those that are listening, would love to end with a little bit about you, your experience in Austin, kind of your philosophies or something about you and the business that you run, since we just kind of jumped into it and I started picking your brain like, at like 5 seconds into the conversation. Would love to get to know you a little bit.
Yeah, sure. My name is Wade. Been in Austin for a little over 9 years, got into real estate shortly after I moved here without knowing anyone or even my way around town. And I've been at Moreland Properties since day one. Today I've got a wonderful team we're known as the Giles Group, and we service a lot of Central Austin, Dripping Springs, Lakeway, that kind of anywhere in Central, in Austin. And I love my job. I love what I get to do. I feel fortunate to get to be a part of people's chapters as they go to buy and sell a home. And it's a really, really rewarding career. I have 2 dogs and I have a horse named Sherlock, and they are the light of my lives, lights of my, what is that phrase? They light up, whatever, you know what I'm talking about. They're great.
The light of my life. I don't know. I think that's like some Sade song or something with that, but it's always nice to put the human touch on things. And I'll say it because you're too humble to say it, but Wade is a fabulous marketer. As someone who, for me, 15 years has run a real estate marketing company in Austin and San Antonio. I've seen the spectrum, and Wade, I put you up there at like in the top 5. I love like following you. It's like such high quality. It's fun to watch. It's engaging. And obviously marketing is a huge part of success, especially in a market like this, where there is inventory, and marketing becomes a big part of the story and the success story. So I will go ahead and toot your horn for you. I love your approach to marketing, and it's really fun to watch.
Thanks. But listen, it's not just me. I've got an incredible team behind me that supports me. Trust me, I might be on the front of stuff, but it's not just me. But thank you.
I get that. It's like the iceberg, right? Like, and I totally understand that. Well, thank you so much for being a valued part of Luxury League. Thank you for joining me this afternoon. I know you've got a million things that you could be doing, working in the business, on the business, getting things under contract, going and showing properties. It's not lost on me or on our audience, anyone listening, that you gave us your time this afternoon to share your experiences and your perspectives. And I really appreciate that. So thanks for being a part of Luxury League and joining me.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
All right, Wade, see you later. Bye.
Bye.